It is a great pleasure to be joined on this program by Mallory Johnson. She is a wonderful country music artist from Newfoundland. How are you today, Mal? Thank you for joining us.
So much for having me. I'm really excited to get to chat with you.
Yeah, the excitement is shared between the two of us. So, to begin, so you are currently living back and forth between Newfoundland and Tennessee. So, how do you manage that situation?
Honestly, I think it is the most ideal situation. Nobody gets a chance to miss me, basically. I get to see my family when I'm home. And then as soon as I'm ready to go back into high gear and into the writing mode and all that kind of stuff and the networking, I get to go back to Nashville. So, yeah, it's been awesome. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Home base has been Nashville. And yeah, it's really cool to kind of have a foot in both places and get to play some really big festivals while I'm home and then getting to go back to Music City to be really creative. And play songwriter shows and things like that. But it's a really awesome balance, and I'm really thankful that I get to do it.
Glad to hear it. So, yeah, tell me about the travel arrangements that you've set up for yourself so far.
Well, travel arrangements, I mean, usually I am in Nashville for most of the year, but I like to come home for Christmas. I always come home during the summer for some big like festivals. I play a lot of summer festivals and to get away from the Nashville heat. I don't do well in heat and high humidity. So I always kind of leave Nashville in July and August and then go back in September after some of the awards weekends and stuff that take place in the fall. So I kind of have it worked out which time of year I go back and forth.
So, I'm
Yeah.
guessing you are talking to us from Newfoundland at this point.
I'm sorry, what was that? You cut
You're
out on me a
talking to
little
us
bit.
from Newfoundland currently, yes?
Oh, yes, yes, I am. Yeah, I'm home in Conception Bay South on the East Coast of Newfoundland. So basically St. John's. And yeah, so I'm coming at you from home. I got playing a festival in a few days. So yeah,
All right.
coming at you from Newfoundland.
Tell me about the festival.
Playing George Street Festival, which I am so excited about. It's been a bucket list gig for me for a long time. It's one of the biggest festivals here at home. And I get to be a direct support for a big Canadian act. It's the Washboard Union. And I'm having my full band with me. It's six of us, and I am just so excited to just be on stage with all that energy of the crowd and for what that festival is. And it's an honor to be involved, and I'm so excited.
Mhm. So, what's it like living in Nashville?
Nashville is honestly everything I hoped it would be and more. I
Mhm.
really love the city. It's very much kind of a small town vibe in a big city, if that makes sense. It's a transplant city. So basically, like people who are actually born and raised in Nashville are rare. We call them unicorns. But it's a lot of people come from away to kind of chase their dreams and be really small fish in a really big pond and hopefully get some cool opportunities. And I just have a great network of friends there, and it's just really creative and really motivating, very intimidating too. It kind of goes one way or the other. It's either like, oh my gosh, this is too much, or you use that to challenge yourself and grow and be better to level up. So it's definitely a very inspiring city, and I feel very lucky that I kind of get to live there. Little more than part time. So, yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. So, what are some of the things that you did not expect moving in to Nashville?
Oh gosh, did not expect. It definitely is a little bit of a culture change with some of the. I don't want to get into any politics or anything like that. Some of the laws and just the way people go about things is a little bit different to get used to.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the food's different. The food's delicious. You kind of have to watch it or, put on the pounds very quickly because fried chicken and barbecue is very delicious. Uh, yeah, but I was actually surprised with how quickly it was, like how accepting everybody is there. I lived in Toronto for a year before I moved to Nashville, and I love Toronto. This is not me bad talking Toronto at all. I love the city, and I really enjoyed my time there. But ironically, I made more Canadian friends in Nashville in my first few months living there than I did my entire year in Toronto. So
Hmm.
it just kind of goes to show how like it's this the city is very friendly and everybody's very welcoming and warm. And what I found more so similar to Newfoundland as opposed to different is the hospitality and the kindness, and everyone's just wanting to help their neighbor. For the most part, you would think it would be a very competitive place to be and a cold place to be, but it very much has that southern hospitality, and everyone's just kind of rooting for each other, which is really awesome.
I'm glad to hear it. So I'm
Mm.
guessing you were born in was it Conception Bay, Newfoundland? Yes.
You know what? A lot of people think I was, but I was not. I was actually born in the Northwest Territories. I was born in
Oh,
Yellowknife. Yeah. So, but both of my parents are from Newfoundland, and they moved back to Newfoundland when I was about 2 years old. So I am a Newfoundlander through and through. I'm proud to be a Newfoundlander. But that is a piece of me that I'm also very proud of, and it comes to a surprise to a lot of people that I was actually born in Yellowknife. Someday I really, really want to go back because I haven't been back there since we left when I was 2. So,
mhm.
yeah.
But I'm guessing you spend much of your upbringing in where you are right now, right? Conception Bay.
Yes, Conception Bay South, and so that's where I was raised. But we spent a lot of time on the West Coast too, holidays and stuff with my mom's side of the family in Cadre Valley. And my dad is from Little Catalina, Bonavista area, which is more east. But so we spent a lot of time, all over the province. But I was raised in Conception Bay South.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you become introduced to country music?
Well, I was in my mother's womb. My mom is a
Hmm.
country singer. So,
Oh.
ironically, her name is Loretta, which is fitting.
Hmm.
And yeah, she was on stage 9 months pregnant with me. She
Wow.
was still singing, didn't take any time off. And yeah, so I basically grew up around music. A lot of my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, um, were musicians and step dancers, and we had the classic kitchen parties that you hear about in Newfoundland. We had those all the time, and so I was surrounded by all those instruments like all the time in the kitchen. So we have guitars and mandolins and harmonicas and sometimes bagpipes. Every wedding and funeral on the West Coast, people were piped in and piped out. So um, I'm definitely influenced by a lot of that Celtic folk music as well. But my mom was a country singer, and so I grew up hearing her sing a lot of Dolly Parton, Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn. Gosh, I for as long as I remember, she's been singing Coal Miner's Daughter and Coat of Many Colors. So that's how I was kind of introduced to the classics. And my dad's a big country fan too. He loves Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and so I'd like to think that I have a rich history and good country music to be inspired by because I was just surrounded by it all the time. And my very first time on stage, I was 3. And so I've never really pictured myself doing anything else. I don't really have a plan B. I mean, I went to school for a plan B, but I fully intend on going music until I drop. So that's kind of yeah, I've never really thought about doing anything else.
Well, so it must have been
Yeah.
pretty easy for you to decide that, hey, I want to follow my family's footsteps to become a musician, right?
Yeah, and not just because it's what I dreamed about doing and what I really love to do. I love to sing. I love everything in the arts. I love to act. I'm a musician too. I play piano and guitar. Love to dance. I danced for years. I even taught some dance classes. So I love everything within the arts. And but I also have a very supportive family, and I know I'm very fortunate to have that they were like, you want to pursue music, we're gonna help you do that, we're gonna support you, we believe in you, because it's not like a paycheck to paycheck kind of job, right? So it's very ambitious, and I feel very lucky that I have a really great circle of cheerleaders that are behind me for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, I wonder if
Mhm.
you can recall that conversation in that you tell your mom like, "Hey, I want to do what you do." How did she respond?
I think it's kind of always been I don't know if we really ever had that conversation because it's always just been a thing. I've always just loved music. And when I was 11 years old, myself and my mom and my uncle Gordon and my cousin Randall, we formed a Celtic family band. and we recorded about four albums, 5 albums. I can't remember now. So I was touring in a van across the country in the US and Scotland as a preteen. So and with my mom. So it was kind of like, no, this is what I want to do for my life. And then, when we had those beautiful few years with that band and getting kind of bit by the bug and experience the industry in that capacity, with songwriting and recording and touring, I was like, no, this is what I want to do. And then just out of high school, when my cousin moved to Alberta, my uncle moved too. It was kind of hard to kind of keep the band together in the way that we had. It was my opportunity to kind of do the solo thing. And that's when I kind of wanted to go the country music route. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And very much congratulations to you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So you mentioned going to school. So where
Mhm.
and what did you learn?
So I attended Memorial University of Newfoundland. And I'm a huge science nerd. I love science, especially like biology, psychology, that kind of vein. And so I was actually originally, maybe I'll do something with psychology. And then I changed my mind and I just started doing biochem nutrition. And then I found out very quickly, it's like, no, I'm not passionate about being a dietitian or a nutritionist. And I don't want to have to go to Nova Scotia to specialize because I'm not that passionate about it. So I switched again and I switched to primary elementary education and with a focus area in science because I had so many science courses done already. So I graduated from Memorial in 2014, I think that was my class. And yeah, so I technically am a teacher. I did teach music privately for about 5 years, but I actually haven't stepped foot in a school classroom since I got my degree. But I'm really proud that I did it. I'm very thankful that I had that education because education is education. No one can take it away from you. And my parents too, they were very supportive with me in music, but they were very passionate about, we really want you to get post-secondary education before you go pick up a move to a big city and chase the music dream. You want you to have something to fall back on or something as, you could pursue later if that's what you wanted to do. And I'm really thankful I did that. Going and doing those courses and doing the post-secondary has made me a better writer with all like the papers we had to write. It's
Mhm.
like I said, it's education. And it definitely, even though that's not the direct path I went with that degree, it has definitely helped me in some capacity to what I'm doing now. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So my dad is a nutritionist, and my brother is having an interest in psychology. He's studying
Oh my
an
gosh, that's
undergraduate there too.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is very lovely because
Yeah.
I'm not the scientific one in the family. I'm much more interested in the humanities, philosophy and
Hmm.
history and politics and the like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder
That's
if,
awesome.
thank you. And I wonder if you still maintain your interest in the sciences, even to this day, even as you are performing music.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'll always lose my interest in the sciences. I think, especially, with the psychology of it all and how the brain works. And I remember doing one of my favorite courses actually in university was the forensic psychology course. I always found that so fascinating, learning kind of like how these serial killers, how their brain works, and it was so fascinating. So obviously, I enjoy some of the crime Netflix shows as well, some of the documentaries that everyone gets sucked into. So yeah, because it's just so outside of what I do as a profession. And it's just so fascinating. I love the sciences. I always have.
Mhm. Yes. I think what I would like to do, is to explore some of the non-musical interests that some of my musical guests may have had.
Okay.
Aside from that, I wonder if mm, do you adapt some of the interests that your family has that are outside the realm of music, and how did that play out?
If I'm completely honest, this is probably going to be a short conversation because I don't have a lot of interest outside of music. I always like joke about this to my manager and just some of my friends in the industry. It's like I find it so awesome meeting people who are passionate about multiple things. And me, it's like no, it's like music and songwriting is kind of my thing. I feel like if I um wanted to, if I went back to school or pursued something else, I feel like I'd be really interested in marketing, PR and marketing. I love being creative in kind of all facets of the industry and kind of, I just love kind of planning out different campaigns and how to be creative with social media and just like the marketing of it. And any way I can be creative, basically, if I couldn't do the music thing. Um, I definitely feel like that would be a strength of mine that I would enjoy.
Mhm. So how about this? If have you ever wondered if you hadn't been a musician, who would you be?
Well, I guess I would be a teacher because that's what my degree was. But no, like I said, like I probably would pursue something in marketing, or performance or something on the business side of the industry as opposed to a performer. But I love songwriting. If I wasn't an artist, I would be content with being a songwriter. Because they don't need to, they can be separate from each other or they can be the same, you know? So um yeah, like I said, I'm an arts nerd. I can't, yeah. When it comes to, I mean, I was always good in math too. I enjoyed math, but like economics and anything of that nature, not for me. Not for me. So I feel like it would have to be down the arts somewhere.
I'm glad to hear it, and I'm very glad that you have a supportive family too, who encourage you to
Mhm.
pursue the profession that you're currently at. Um, so tell me about your year living in Toronto. How did you come to live there?
So actually, it came about with a conversation with some of my bandmates, and we were doing a show in Texas, actually. And we were all kind of hanging out and kind of fantasizing of what it would be like to leave Newfoundland and go to a big city, like Nashville someday or Texas. Like that's what the conversation was. And then that conversation kind of continued and taken more seriously about like, well, what about Toronto? The music scene is vibrant, the art scene is vibrant. Um, Again, it's wanting to kind of level up. Not that Newfoundland is so rich with, I think, some of the most talented musicians in the world. For me, it wasn't the music of why I wanted to leave. It was more of the opportunity. Because when you go to these bigger hubs, you're getting on the ground, you're getting these booking agents, publishing, labels, they're all there. So it's a matter of not if the right person will walk in the room, it's a matter of when. So it was just kind of us throwing ourselves in a new situation to have to grow and adapt and learn, and expand and just be inspired by new things and inspired to write new songs. Um, but yeah, so that conversation came about, and two of my bandmates, my at the time my guitar player and my bass player, they moved up to Toronto, and then a month later, I also moved up there. And so it was nice to kind of have them to us to lean on each other. We kind of had each other there, and I also have family just outside of Toronto in Mississauga. So um, yeah, I really really loved it. For me, it was always kind of a stepping stone to get to Nashville. I wanted to experience the big city on a national scale before I kind of went the international route. And I'm so thankful that I did. I made a lot of really great friendships there, a lot of great industry relationships there. And it's really, honestly, kind of a butterfly effect to some of the relationships I now have in Nashville. So, yeah, I'm really thankful I did it. While I was there for that year, I was working on my application for my work visa for the US. And um, just being there kind of really helped me grow up and really experience being independent. And yeah, it just kind of well rounds you. And like you say, you grow up, you learn, you adapt, you grow, in every sense of the word. So um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed my experience in Toronto, and I felt like it went by too quick. But I am really enjoying where I am now too. So
So tell me about your experience and involvement in the Newfoundland country music scene. I understand that your album, which we will talk about soon enough, Surprise Party, was
yeah,
nominated for the CCMA, right? Canadian Country Music Award. Uh,
yeah, the new
twice.
nominations. Yeah,
Yeah, one for
yeah.
Best Alt Country Album and the other for
Mhm.
Innovative Campaign of the
Yeah.
Year. So first, tell me about the country music scene in Newfoundland.
Honestly, it's small but mighty. I am so proud, not just to be a country music musician in the province, but just a Newfoundland musician. Our community is so amazing, so supportive. Everyone roots for each other, everyone cheers each other on. The talent is ridiculous. It's so amazing in so many different genres because Newfoundland, of course, or the East Coast, I guess in general, is very much so. You get a lot of folk, you get a lot of like Americana, kind of the traditional Celtic, Irish, Newfoundland, all that kind of that umbrella. But there is room for these other genres, and country is one of those genres. And there's a handful of us that are taking that genre seriously and trying to make waves and releasing great projects. Some of my really good friends actually are also country music artists. Jason Benoit, who's also up for Alternative Album of the Year at the CCMAs this year. So it's cool that we have two Newfoundlanders in there. And so Jason Benoit, who's kicking butt right now, Justin Fancy, Carolina East. There's just so many great artists in this province that, and we're all a little bit different too, which is cool. Everyone's sound within that country genre sounds a little bit different. But yeah, it's really special because you get to share the wins together, and you also get to kind of be each other's shoulder when things are not going really the way you want it, or if there's any frustrations, or like because they know what you're going through. You're kind of chasing the same path, and you're in the same industry, and the industry is smaller than you think, and it's really comforting and awesome to have to be a part of that community. And like I said, Music Newfoundland and Labrador, the association, again, is very supportive and just a wonderful community. And they really want to see us rise and celebrate our successes. And yeah, I'm very proud to be an East Coaster and a part of those East Coast associations.
I have the fortune of living in Canada for 4 years while I was doing my
Mhm.
undergraduate, but I've never had the fortune of visiting Newfoundland or St. John. So I think
Yeah,
it's my plan to next time when I come to Canada is St. John's and maybe Ottawa that I will visit.
yeah,
Probably your neck of the woods as well. But what I found doing this show is that there is a surprising a lot of people who are country musicians in St. John's and in Newfoundland, including
yeah.
yourself. So the first one that I actually met is there's a young girl named Paige Penny, who is also
Yes, I
moving
know.
to Nashville. So of course, you guys' paths have crossed each other. So what do you think of
Mhm.
her?
She is the sweetest little thing. I actually didn't really get to know her very well until this past year, I guess. But I know she's been in the scene for a little while. She's working hard, writing lots of songs, back and forth with her mom and dad to Nashville, doing lots of songwriting, and just kind of trying to get into that circuit. Yeah, she's very ambitious, and which I applaud. I think, um, when people start to relax and be like, okay, no, I'm good, that's when the problems happen. But she's like, go. She has this awesome, ambitious mentality about it all. And she's so kind. So yeah, I'm rooting for her. I really am. She's super young, and I think she's hungry for it. And if she keeps going the pace she's going, I think she's going to find what she wants, what she's looking for. Um, yeah, I got to write a little bit with her when she came to Nashville, and we've crossed paths a few times. And I know last year we crossed paths at the Canadian Country Music Awards, and yeah, and it's nice. I'm like, it's nice to have more East Coasters in Nashville too. There's a lot of West Coasters.
Mhm.
So I'm one of the very few East Coasters I feel in my circle down there. So it's always nice to expand that.
Awesome. Yeah. So assuming that you are a few years older than Paige at least, how do you
Hmm.
think of and feel about acting as a mentor figure to, say, younger people, especially younger girls who wish to follow your path of becoming a country musician?
I absolutely will happily take on that role. And I also think it's very important that, people like me kind of take on that role because I mean, and I did have mentors too when I was her age. I did have people I could trust and rely on. But unfortunately, in this industry, which I'm assuming in most industries, not just music, um, there's some people who take advantage, and some people who you think have your best interests in mind when they don't. And you can kind of, as years go on and more experience you have within the industry and seeing behind the curtain, you can kind of see those red flags a little clearer. Um, and I know I wish that I had seen red flags earlier on with some relationships and business partners that I've had. So yeah, I'm happily to be a mentor, and I love giving whatever advice I can share from my experience that will help the next artist coming up. Um, I think is so important and so special. And I can't remember whose quote this is, but I love it, and I've heard it a few times now. But um, it's when you get to the top, send the elevator back down. And I just love that visual and that quote. So I'm not saying I'm anywhere near the top, but I definitely feel like I have things that I could or advice I could give to a younger generation of artists and musicians that may help them. So
Well, you may not be at the top, but you're certainly a couple of floors away. So,
thanks. Working my way up. Yeah.
yes. So, I think that brings us to your experience in the music business, which I understand can be tough for musicians. And I think it is because of the fact that you don't know who's really looking out for you, and the fact that in a hyper competitive space, and Nashville being that one, people can be very self-oriented, right? Looking out for themselves first and
Yeah.
others second. So,
Yeah.
from your experience working in that particular environment, how do you come to, I guess, not just survive but thrive?
Honestly, it's all about relationships. It's, you can have the talent, you can have the money, you can have the song, but you can't really get ahead without having strong relationships and people who really are cheering for you and people who believe in you. I feel like we're past the age of, you're allowed to be an asshole because you're a rock star. Like I feel like in this business, you have to be kind. You have to be genuinely kind. There's a difference between acting kind and actually being genuine when you are being kind. There's a lot of, people who wear masks too, right? So yeah, it's just kind of like being able to pick out the good ones and being genuine and being loyal. Don't not being loyal to a fault though. That was what went wrong for me. There were many times where I was loyal to a fault and that bit me. So, but yeah, being loyal and just, yeah, treating people with respect and everybody on your team with respect and trying to get to know the people you're working with and wanting what's best for them. And it's more of like this mutual thing as opposed to, oh, what can they do for me? I'm hiring them, so what can they do for me? No, it's like, how do you both benefit? I have this beautiful, beautiful relationship with my now manager. She was my radio promoter first. Her name's Danny Strong, and she's an artist as well. And she worked my songs at radio for years, and we just have this beautiful friendship. And when I had a falling out with my previous management, actually right before I released my new record, Surprise Party, um, she was already kind of taking on a manager role without me asking her to. And then she just kind of naturally fell into place. And it just honestly, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me for my career. And it was that moment where I realized it's like, okay, these kinds of relationships are so, so important. And I felt like for a long time, I envied that kind of relationship that I would see other artists having with some of their team members. And I feel like I got this one. I'm like, I'm gonna hold on to her tight because she's in it for the long haul. I believe in her just as much as she believes in me. We work equally hard for each other, and it's a great thing. So yeah, so it's a challenging industry, and like I said, you can have the talent, you can have the goods, you can have the time, you can have the money, and that's all important, right? All the stars kind of need to align to create what you deem as success, which could mean so many different things. But you need to have the network, you need to have the people, you need to have the relationships, because no matter what industry you're in, someone's going to help their friend out. before they'll help out a stranger that they don't like very much.
Mhm. Yeah,
You know?
so
So
that brings us back to the beginning of our discussion where I brought up your travel arrangements and such. And I think
Mhm.
having a home to go to, as in Conception Bay, Newfoundland, that you go to once in a while, it's
Yeah,
also a very important thing too, because as much as I imagine Nashville is maybe as exciting as you think it is, after a while, the competition and the overwhelming amount of performance in your schedule can feel overwhelming, and
yeah.
perhaps home can be, some you can spend some time away from that when you're at Newfoundland, right?
Oh, 100%. I find it a great reset button. Family keeps you grounded because they know you best than anybody else. They know you outside of that industry, right? They know you at your worst, in addition to your best. So, yeah, my family and friends keep me grounded. And like I said, I feel very thankful that I get to go back and forth as often as I do. Because when I'm in, Nashville mode where it's like work, 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 right, record, record, I get to the period where I'm like, okay, I need a minute. I need to go reset. I need to go hang out with people outside of the industry, and then you get to come home and I get to, talk about my friends' kids or whose wedding is coming up or what they're doing in their careers, which is complete polar opposites to what I do. It's so refreshing. And getting to spend time with my family and my nieces and nephews and my siblings. And um, it's a really great reset. And then by the time I'm like, okay, I'm hungry to get back to work, go back to Nashville and then it's grind again. So yeah, like I said before, I'm thankful that I'm able to travel back and forth as often as I do because I know that everybody doesn't get to do that. So yeah, I'm very, very thankful for that. So not too much time passes before I get to see the people I love and then I also get to do what I love to do. So yeah.
Mhm. Right. So one thing I've finally figured out from talking to so many musicians on this show is that summer is when you guys are the most active, the most busy, because the
Mm-hmm.
weather is favorable and
Yeah.
hence you guys do a lot of outdoor shows and such. And during, say, autumn or winter, it is where you record stuff and to put out albums and such. I would
Yeah.
assume that your album Surprise Party, which I think is fantastic,
Yeah.
was recorded
Thank
somewhere
you.
in fall or winter, and which is I think it's a polar opposite for me, who's a non-musician and an academic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently studying right now because summers where we are off, we don't really do
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me about that.
You are absolutely correct. I started recording my album in January of 2020. Now I'm confused. Was it January 2020 or 2021? Anyway, most of the recording process was done through the pandemic, which you can
Mhm.
imagine was difficult because if one person got COVID, then we'd be shut down for a while or whatever. But it also allowed me lots of time to dedicate towards the production process and the songwriting because we couldn't go play shows. So there was that silver lining in that. So a lot of artists were able to be really creative during that time and work on projects kind of like under the radar. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time recording and writing for that album. And then, like you said, summer is festival season. So a lot of artists are doing festivals and shows throughout the summer. Um, However, the fall can be a pretty big touring season too, like October, November, before the weather gets bad. For me, you get a lot of albums that come out in the fall too. Little Surprise Party came out the end of October, which for me ended up being like the best case scenario because I was in the middle of my album release tour to promote this record. And it just so happened to fall on Music NL Week in Corner Brook in Newfoundland. So my album dropped while I was in the middle of the music celebration week in Corner Brook with all my Newfoundland musicians and peers. And it was the coolest way to celebrate. I got to do my new songs during my showcases, and everybody had like a little surprise get together at one of the local bars downtown. And all these musicians who should have been celebrating their own stuff, who were nominees in other categories. I wasn't nominated for anything that year because, well, first of all, I wasn't eligible, but you never know if you're going to be nominated or not. but I was just doing a showcase and had this record, and everybody, all of my friends, just jammed into this little bar and had the countdown. They played the record on the speakers and stuff when it came out, and it was just, it made me feel just so, well, it just makes you teary. It's an overwhelming feeling when you've put so much work into a project for multiple years, essentially 2, 3 years. And then for it to finally be out there in the world, and it's not just yours anymore, it's now everybody else's. And just to have this tangible product that everybody can kind of be a part of and then celebrate it. It was just such a special moment for me, and the best way I could have released it. And yeah, it was a really fun week. And I'm really happy I got to celebrate the release at home in Newfoundland with all of those people. So yeah, it's so then of course we were touring that record in the fall, and then of course Christmas is kind of like a low period. No one's really on the road during the holidays, and or they're all out of office, and then it kicks back up in the spring. So that's when, like you said, the busy season with all the tours and festivals, everyone's promoting the new songs, the new albums, and that's just a cycle over and over and over.
So, yeah, like I said, the album is fantastic, and there are a couple of highlights in the track list here. I find the third song, which is titled "Mary," to be particularly interesting. The chorus says that you want a wedding, but you don't want to be married. So,
Yeah.
without knowing your current marital status, so tell me about the inspiration going into that song.
Of course. Well, I'm not married. I'm definitely single, but that didn't really have anything to do necessarily with the song. But so basically, actually, I guess that has a lot to do with the song because it was inspired by where I'm at an age where almost all of my friends are engaged or married. And I've been a bridesmaid more times than I can count. My closet is full of dusty rose and sage green bridesmaids dresses. I could probably rotate them and wear them in multiple weddings. That's how often, so often I'm in a wedding. But you know, those days are so special and so much fun. And I love weddings. I love being a part of that, you know, one of the highlights of someone's life. It's a huge milestone. And but I find myself, you know, I'm always okay, I'm all like that cliche saying, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And it's, you know, you kind of get to a point where like you envy having that experience. It's like, oh, I would love one day to be the one in the white dress and, you know, being catered to and someone celebrating my love and just have that, you know, fairy tale moment that, you know, everybody, you know, at least every little girl dreams of. And but I don't have that person in my life where I can kind of picture that with. So I kind of brought this idea into a songwriting session with Patricia Conroy and Jason Blaine, which are monster artists, writers in Canada. It was my first writing session with them both, actually. And it was over a Zoom session because we were in the middle of the pandemic, even though we were all based in Nashville. And I brought this line, I want the wedding, but I don't want to get married. And they thought it was hilarious. And even though both of them are like happily married, they're very, very much happy in their marriages. But we took it and we ran with it, and we had so much fun. And yeah, then I brought it into the studio, and then Kent Wells, the producer on the majority of the record, he kind of took it and kind of switched up kind of the vibe of it and made it even cooler. And then when we kind of had this compilation of songs for the album, it was a no-brainer that it was going to be a single. So it was kind of, we put all our eggs in that basket, and that was our big single coming out for the record. And we did a full-fledged music video. My brother is a videographer, and he's direct all my music videos. So we are a very artsy family. And so he directed the music video. We actually put off a wedding. It was a 2-day shoot. I was a bride. I had a bridal party. I had a groom. We legit had a wedding and videotaped it. So it was so much fun. And even the whole campaign for that single, we sent radio, save the dates to be like, this is when the song's coming out. And yeah, we just had so much fun promoting that song. Yeah, so it was kind of the kickoff of the record that kind of opened the door to a lot of the amazing recognition and accolades that that album has received. That song alone, that got me these radio features with Stingray, the trending track, which made it go my very first top 50 Billboard charting song. So, yeah, so that song was really special, and we have a lot of fun playing it live. I love watching the audience reactions to some of the lines, and yeah, that's one of my favorites on that record for sure.
Awesome. So I'm of a younger age group than you are,
Mm-hmm.
not to presume your age or anything, um, but I'm my peers in my current age group are, they're I know one or two who are actually married, but many of them
Mm-hmm.
are in a relationship, and
Yeah.
I wonder if you can relate to the feeling where everyone is in a relationship but you have not found someone yet, and somehow when your friends talk about these relationships with you, you feel like you cannot relate to them, and at worst you feel well either left out or somewhat less than because you have different priorities and they do not involve
Mm-hmm.
having another person as your romantic partner.
Yeah, 100%. I am always the third wheel. I'm always the fifth wheel. I'm always the one that can drop everything on a dime and go out when my friends can't because they need babysitters or, their work schedules are during the week when I'm a musician. So a lot of my gigs are the weekends when a lot of my friends will be off. So, especially with my friends in Newfoundland, a lot of my friends in Nashville are musicians as well. So, we kind of have similar lifestyles. But yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I fantasize about simple game nights with like couples, and like I can't do that when I'm the single one. So yeah, it can be really tough sometimes for sure. Especially at um, holidays and stuff when everyone's getting together for dinner, it's like you keep getting asked the question, oh, when are you going to bring somebody home? Or, when's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? And it's an exhausting conversation over and over. Luckily, my parents don't really pressure me on that anymore. They know I'm doing my thing, and music is always number one. And it's also really tough to date a musician, which is why so many of us date other musicians. Um, because it's you're kind of on the road all the time. There's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to musicians, in terms of like trust and things like that, which I don't think is the case in most situations. But it's tough. It's hard because you're on stage performing and all the time, or you're touring or away from home, and uh, it's definitely a different. It's a different lifestyle, and it's really tough to date a musician. That's all I got to say. So yeah.
I wonder if being a touring musician can come with it an overwhelming of feeling of loneliness, and I wonder
Oh
if
yeah.
how do you resolve that?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of musicians are they suffer in silence kind of thing. Um, but that's also what fuels amazing music. My darkest days give me my best music. So it's sad, but it's at the same time, we are kind of this way of like we are sometimes able to articulate feelings and experiences through our music that maybe somebody who's not a songwriter don't know how to articulate. So it's really cool to be able to resonate with somebody and make them feel less alone in their loneliness. And um, it's just music is such a powerful and a really special thing. It's very cathartic for not just the writer but the listener. And yeah, it can definitely be a lonely thing for sure. Like even when I'm thinking about doing this festival on Monday at George Street, like I have a hotel for the night and I feel like I'm going to go do my sound check and I'm going to go back to my hotel room by myself, get ready alone, and then show back up on stage. So you have these moments where the loneliness can be definitely overwhelming. Uh, but yeah, but then it's not always so bad either. I feel like I'm an extroverted introvert. So I love to socialize and I love to meet people and talk to people and go out. But at the end of the night, I love coming home and being alone and decompressing. And putting on a face mask and watching some Netflix or something. So, but yeah, but being a touring musician can be lonely for sure.
Well, for what it's worth, I certainly hope you can find somebody, musician or otherwise, whom you can be romantically committed with, and hopefully
Oh,
he
thank
or
you.
she will alleviate you from that loneliness.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think everybody deserves love, and yeah. So thank you.
So,
Someday it'll happen someday.
hopefully too, and hopefully that wedding that you talk about in the song "Married" will be an actual one. Um,
Yeah, although after doing that video, I don't know if I would go that big for a wedding. Now I'm just like, I'll just elope. That was a lot of effort. So I'm just gonna skip the party and just, have a little intimate thing. We'll
yeah,
see.
I've always been a fan of the small wedding, and I hope that that becomes like socially normal, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so you have other songs in this album too, which are genuinely heartbreaking, to put it mildly. You have a song
Mhm.
called "Hungover," which is
Yep.
heartbreaking. You have a song called "Drunk Mind, Sober Heart," which is
Yeah.
very heartbreaking. And I think surprisingly, the song "Party Dress" kind of let me down a little, just because of how sad it was.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so
and again,
fascinating. That's so,
I mean this as a compliment, and so I'm sure this is
yeah.
what you're aiming for. And since at least two of the songs in this album are about drinking, I certainly am hoping I'm not talking to somebody with a severe drinking problem because I'm not
No.
capable of doing so. But yeah, yeah, tell me about those songs.
Yeah, well, actually, the two drinking songs on the record were previous singles that I put out, gosh, in 2019. So, Dustin Olian, a really great friend of mine and Canadian producer, produced those tracks for me. And at the time, I was writing new music. This is following my self-titled EP, and I was writing lots of new music, and we were kind of me and my team were kind of debating back and forth, like, do we release a single? But the single should be, if you follow the rules of like commercial country radio or whatever, um, you shouldn't necessarily release a beautiful acoustic ballad. So that's not really in your best interest. It should be an upbeat, fun, what a lot of people would refer to as fast food music. Because radio, it's like you don't want people to have to think too deeply about some of the lyrics. It's kind of like you just want it to be fun, driving music, that kind of thing. So, but then the artist and the writer in me was like, oh, but like Drunk Mind Sober Heart is my favorite song right now that I've written. So we actually decided to release both Hungover and Drunk Mind Sober Heart at the same time as a virtual, uh, oh my gosh, what's it called when you release? It's like the A side, the B side, and it's just two songs.
Single?
45,
Oh,
a digital
45,
40.
yes.
Yeah. So Hungover was kind of like the commercial song we were pushing to like DSPs or
Ah,
radio or whatever. And then Drunk Mind was kind of like the beautiful B side. That was my personal
mm,
favorite. And which actually ended up being the song that of all the songs I've ever put out has been the most popular of all of my songs. I have like dude musicians who I admire for their rock and roll covering that song. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like there's no better compliment than somebody covering your song. And then to hear these rock guys like respect my songwriting enough and love the song enough to be covering it in their gigs. I'm just like, that is the coolest freaking thing ever. But yeah, so we released that song as a digital 45, and that was kind of a reintroduction, I guess, to me and my music, a little bit of a different sound than my previous project, because I think in my heart, I'm more of I kind of go under more the Americana, kind of more traditional country sounds than the pop country. I mean, you hear a little bit of pop elements here and there, but I definitely love the world of the Casey Musgraves and Jason Isbell's and Rustin Kelly's and Brandy Clark, Aubrey Sellers, all of these kind of um, unapologetic songwriters and just kind of say it how it is. And they're just artists in every sense of the word. And I just really admire and respect their writing and their musicality. And yeah, so we put those songs out, and then when they were out for a couple of years before Surprise Party kind of came to be. And then when we kind of ended up landing on this album title, Surprise Party, I was like, well, I can't have an album that's titled as a party without having songs referencing alcohol. And so those two songs didn't really have a home, and I wanted them to be on a physical album. So they fit the theme. It's behavior you do at a party. So yeah, they fit the overall concept of the record. So they found a home.
Yeah, so yeah, the title track Surprise Party, it's I get the feeling that the hypothetical party that is taking place is not something that you do to have fun, so to speak, but to not feel sad. And I wonder if that was the intent behind that song.
Yeah, well, that song was so special with how it kind of came about. Um, I was in the middle of pre-production with my producer Kent for this record. And at the time, I didn't have the title of the album figured out. I thought I was only going to do a 6-song EP. And we were kind of hashing out songs in the studio. And during that same time, I had a few writing sessions set up with some of my best friends, some dream collaborators. Married was actually written during that time. I had to write with Carolyn Dawn Johnson, and the song I wrote with her ended up going on the project too. So I have these like amazing writing sessions set up. And one of those sessions was with some of my best friends, Julie and Carly Kennedy. And they're a twin sister duo from BC originally, but they're based in Nashville. They go by Twin Kennedy. And I write a lot with those girls. I feel like some of my best songs have come from sessions with them. And getting to write with your best friends makes almost writing more easy because you're able to be super vulnerable. No one's judgmental. You know each other so well. You know each other's stories and your influences. Who's done you wrong? You kind of like, they just know you so well. So I always love writing with them. And so it was an evening. I went over to Julie's place, and I was telling the girls, I was like, I have these songs I'm really excited about to record for this new project, but the artist in me, I was like, I feel like something's missing. I want something that makes this project cohesive and kind of ties everything in a pretty bow. I want this concept. And I was like, I feel like, I have the drinking songs. I have the heartbreak songs. I have, what you would classify as cliche, what you need to have in a country music album. I was like, but I don't have this song where, kind of it's just about, in general, maybe wishing somebody well or just kind of tying this album in a bow. And I said, I really wanted a song that gave me the same kind of feeling as one of my favorite songs, which is All Your Favorite Bands by Dawes. And so we kept trying to pull out random ideas out of thin air to kind of come up with this idea. And I went through my phone because I usually on my notes app, I have a bunch of titles. And I went through my phone and I saw this line I'd written down months prior, just randomly. And it said, I hope somebody throws you a surprise party. And then as soon as I said that line out loud, you could almost see the light bulbs in the room light up. And we just sat down and we're kind of spewing out all of these, like, okay, what are some like really big things that you wish for somebody, and just some of the little things that you wish well for somebody. And not for anybody in particular. It could be a lover, it could be a coworker, it could be family member, it could be friend, stranger. Didn't matter who you were talking to, but just wanting the best for somebody and hoping that they have a good day rather than, a shitty day. And Surprise Party was so special because I feel like whether you like surprises or not, a surprise party, I feel like it's one of the most generous and kind things somebody could do for another person, to go out of their way to plan this big extravagant thing just to celebrate you and honor you when you walk through a door without you knowing. You walk just to see a smile on your face and just fill a room with people you love. So I think that's just so beautiful. And that just ended up being a no-brainer, and the whole record kind of fell into place. And the songs that I felt strongly about before that song was written still fit the theme. And then I was able to write a few more songs following that one that fit the theme even better. So it just became a 12-song concept album at the end of the day. So all because of that song, all because of that title. So yeah, it was a cool moment when we finished that song. It was definitely like a gut feeling and very serendipitous that it was meant to be.
So, tell me about your perspective on heartbreak and how it plays into your song. And uh, I'm referring now back to what you've said about dating a musician and how difficult it can be. So I wonder if your perspective of heartbreak has some connections with the inability to find a committed romantic partner because of your profession.
Oh, definitely. Even when it comes to dating other musicians, that
Mhm.
is difficult. Especially for somebody who spends a lot of time in Nashville and then a lot of time in Newfoundland. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm never in one place for too long, but that definitely plays a role in bad ways, obviously, but in also really great ways. Like I said, my best music comes from my heartbreak. I'm a romantic. If anybody follows this kind of thing, I think I'm an Enneagram 4, wing 3, which means, well, I am a performer. So sometimes I'm also terrified of rejection. I'm a perfectionist, terrified of rejection. And so sometimes I will hold back what I really want to say or do. Um, and yeah, so I'll hold back and I'll say something differently or do something differently than what I truly feel, but then I'll let it all out in my music. So music is very, especially the heartbreak songs, very much a diary entry. And I like to say as much truth as possible. Most of the songs I write, even if a song in its entirety may not be about me and my experience, at least parts of me are weaved through. Um, but heartbreak is it creates such a beautiful canvas and it's very raw emotion. And I find I write my best when I'm in the thick of it, in the thick of that emotion, because I'm able to kind of like, no, I need to get it on paper. It helps me get the feelings out, but at the same time, just kind of take a snapshot of what I was feeling in that moment. And the most raw stuff, it resonates the best with people. People know when you're being honest and being authentic, and they can weed through the BS. So if you're not being your true self, if you're not telling the truth or singing the truth, people can figure that out pretty quickly. So, um, yeah, I obviously heartbreak sucks. I don't wish heartbreak on anybody, but when it comes to art, damn, is it good? It's really good for the art. But but yeah, so yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, hopefully, somebody walks into my life and I never have to write another heartbreak song again. But until then, I'm still writing heartbreak songs. I think some of my best songs have yet to be recorded. I've been doing a lot of writing since this album's come out, and I'm really excited about the new material. I haven't been into a studio to record them yet, but I basically have enough new songs for a new project. So um, yeah, there's a lot of surprise party will be surprisingly uplifting in comparison, I think, to the
Mhm.
new music. I'll go a little darker with some of the new stuff, which I'm really excited about.
Mhm. I look forward
Yeah.
to it too. And you're
Yeah.
welcome to this show when the album's out, and I would love to
Yeah.
speak to you about it.
I would love to come back and chat about it.
So, I think a difficulty being a musician is how, to what extent do you reveal your personal life to your audience via your music, right? And that, um, for example, right, we've only met for the first time today, yet
Mhm.
in your music, you've revealed to me certain aspects of your life, presumably, that uh, that that is only reserved to people you know best, like say your family or
Mhm.
your closest friends. And as a consumer of music, I can feel a tad uncomfortable because, well, what do I do with this knowledge? Like your
Right.
like for example, when I listen to someone like Fiona Apple, right, who
Mhm.
delves really into the personal nitty-gritty aspects of her life, and she just puts it out there, and someone like me who finds someone who's in a bad situation and
Yeah.
desperately wants to reach out for help, for example, it's frozen shut because there's nothing much I can do other than, well, listen to your music and I have an understanding of how you feel. So yeah.
Yeah. kind of like what we talked about, music is powerful. And I almost feel like as a musician or songwriter, I guess more than anything else, the songwriter, you kind of have this responsibility, because music does save people's lives. It really does. I mean, it's the proof in the stories that people talk about. They'll message artists and be like, I was about to do something really terrible, and then I heard your song on the radio, and it was a 180. Like I just, saved their lives. I've heard so many of those stories, and that's how powerful music can be. And I feel like as a songwriter, I mean, there's different goals and there's different things that you write for. Um, if you're writing for radio, that's different from writing for an album cut or something you're going to sync to a film, or you're writing something for a commercial. Um, there's so many different ways to write a song, so many different purposes to a song. But as a songwriter and the artist in my music, it's just becoming very noticeable that the songs I'm putting out that I'm more scared of end up paying off better and are more rewarding. Like I said, like those really deep heartbreak songs, or a song that myself and Twin Kennedy put out as a collaboration called Wise Woman. It's kind of these songs that maybe some people might be afraid to say, or are super vulnerable, where it's like I said, like maybe somebody else might not be able to articulate, but then they hear the song and be like, oh, that's how I feel. I don't feel so alone in that. And a lot of my favorite projects as a consumer, like I'm really loving, I love Maddie Diaz and her album History of a Feeling. It's super stripped down. And that whole arc of that record is her going through a heartbreak. So in the beginning, it's all of the raw, the anger, the sadness. And then you kind of see her heal through this project. And then the last couple songs are more like uplifting and her moving on. And that project was just so unapologetic and so like, oh God, heart-wrenching. Like she really went there and just didn't give a shit, essentially. She was like, this is me, take it or leave it. And I just love that project so much. And same thing with Kelsey Ballerini has this new EP called Rolling Up the Welcome Mat, and it's all about her divorce. And it was a project that she talks about just being originally for her. She wasn't even considering putting it out, and it's her best music she's ever put out. I was like, I wasn't always a fan of her music because I'm not into super pop country, but then she put out that EP, and I am Kelsey's number one fan. Like I think that project is so raw and so vulnerable, and um, it's powerful. It is powerful, and it gives other artists like myself permission to go there. You know what I mean? It's like, so what if I name somebody in the song? So what if I talk about, my feelings in this moment? Taylor Swift is famous for that. She's as big as she is because she just doesn't care. She's like, this is about this person, or this is what I'm going through. I'm unapologetic for this. And people connect to that, and good or bad. I know I'm talking a lot about, the divorce, heartbreak, that kind of thing, but the good things too. So, and like I said, the more honest and open and transparent, I think the more people relate to that. Because when it's something that's sugar coated, or, or someone's just singing the song and doesn't even resonate with the lyrics themselves, the audience, the listener's not going to resonate with it. So, yeah, I mean, back to what you said, where it could cause some people to be uncomfortable as a listener to kind of see the deep, dark sides of someone. I guess that's up to the writer if they want to write in metaphor, or be literal, or what line they don't want to cross. Because yeah, it's the job. It's the job to try to figure that out, and how much of yourself you want to make public. But in terms of a songwriter and connecting with an audience member, I feel like the more transparent, the better. Yeah.
So, sometime at the beginning of this discussion, you mentioned that we were worried that we were going to have a very short conversation, and
Yeah.
it's actually my kind of worry every time I begin the show, because for most of the time I'm meeting my guest for the very first time, right?
Yeah.
And you can definitely hear at least one or two episodes in my previous shows where I'm actually trying to keep the conversation going by asking
Yeah.
as many questions as possible. But we are an hour in, and I must say,
Oh,
I'm guessing
time
our
flew.
worries are dispelled. I think I think we've had a very meaningful dialogue. I think.
Me
Thank you
too.
for sharing your music and you know, yourself with me and the listening public, so to speak.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. It's fun to kind of do these kinds of and it's a podcast. Well, these kind of interviews or conversations because you get a little more deep. It's different than doing a 5 minute interview where it's the same kind of questions over and over. So it's nice to kind of dive in for
Mhm.
sure.
Oh, now that
Yeah.
I've wasted enough of your time, I'd like to leave you with one final question. What does music mean to you?
um, what does it not mean to me? I mean, music is my life. It's number one priority for me. A day doesn't go by where I'm not doing something to do with music. So if I didn't have music, I don't know what I'd be doing. So there you go. It means everything to me.
So, thank you very much, Mal Johnson, country music
Thank
superstar
you.
from Newfoundland, for talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope